I attempted a Hardcore Nuzlocke using only Pokemon that begin with the letter I. And guys, this may be the hardest challenge I have ever tried. There are only 9 total Pokemon that start with the letter I, and the most you can get in a single playthrough is 5. That playthrough would be in Pokemon Sword, a game I have never Nuzlocked before. So yeah, this should be really interesting. If you aren't familiar with Nuzlocks, they're a set of self-imposed rules to make the game harder, and the most important rule is if a Pokemon ever faints, I can't use it for the rest of the run. Let's get into it. Oh, but make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you like Pokemon content like this. Welcome to Galar, the region where the Pokemon get so big, it's got people looking like they're witnessing atrocities. My name is I, and along with my friend Hop, we set off on our adventure. The current champion of this region is Leon, who gives me my starter Pokemon. I pick the crybaby Sobble, as it evolves into Inteleon. I name my Sobble Irrigate. After looking for a Wooloo that's clearly been in our line of sight this entire time, we head off with our new friends. On the way to the wild area, Hop and I decide to play some Raid Shadow Legends, the sponsor of today's video. Set in the world of Teleria, champions come from all around to free the realm from the Dark Lord Siroth. Now, there are over 600 champions you can use. To try these champions out for yourself, click the link in the description below and download on mobile or PC. Raid just released the wildest boss so far, the Hydra. A monster so scary, it would leave Hydreigon quivering in its boots. Each head has different mechanics from the others. The Head of Suffering passes some of the damage it takes to you, and if the Head of Wrath gets angry enough, it'll triple its attack power. Stop laughing at me, I'm doing the best that I can. As a Pokemon fan, I really like the turn-based action of the game. I can use some strategies that I'm familiar with, but some of the nuances, like selecting a move right before you use it, are really fun to try out. Raid's also giving away a limited edition champion to every player. And not just any champion, it's based on esports legend Simple. If you log in 7 days between now and January 28th, boom, he's yours. With the new year events and tournaments, there's never been a better time to get started. And if you use my QR code shown on the screen, you'll get a free starter pack worth almost $30, including the Rector Draft Champion, 200k silver, 1 energy refill, 1 XP boost, and 1 ancient shard. You'll find these rewards in your inbox for the next 30 days only, so download Raid Shadow Legends now. I finally make it to Motostoke, where I meet Marnie and her evil European soccer fans. It's also here where I can formally enter the Gym Challenge. But before I take on any gyms, I need to make a stop at the Isle of Armor. Wild Pokemon can run up and attack you here too. So I head straight for the Master Dojo, where I can join Cobra Kai Karate. My first trial is to find and defeat 3 super fast Slowpoke. So instead of doing that, I go and get my first real encounter of the run, and that would be Inkay. I catch him and name him Inverse. Inverse has the Suction Cups ability, which really isn't that helpful for a Nuzlocke. Also, since its evolution is Malamar, which doesn't start with the letter I, this little dude will be an Inkay forever. My new team member is perfect for taking out the Galarian Slowpoke. As a Dark type, it can't be hit by Psychic moves, and it can deal huge damage back. After defeating the Slowpoke and finishing the first trial, Condiment Sensei allows me to pick either a Bulbasaur or a Squirtle to join my team. I pick Bulbasaur, as it evolves into Ivysaur. I name Bulbasaur Implant. My next trial is to find some max mushrooms. For sure, Sensei, I'll be right back. I make it to Turffield, the location of the first gym. Here, I'll be taking on Milo and his grass Pokemon. I don't have a great grass counter, but luckily Milo only has 2 Pokemon. Milo starts with Gossifleur, and I send out Inkay. Inkay knows Pluck, which does a lot of damage, and takes a round from Gossifleur with ease. 1 more Pluck knocks Gossifleur out, and Milo sends out Eldegoss. We both Dynamax here, and Inverse is safe to a Max Strike. Max Airstream also doesn't do a lot of damage. I should be safe to another Max Strike, but Milo goes for Max Overgrowth, which Inverse barely lives. After another weak Max Airstream, I switch to Ivysaur to take the last Dynamax move. Implant handles all of Eldegoss's moves, so after a few growths to raise special attack, Implant can knock out Eldegoss and we get our first badge. Hop is a complete pushover who I take out with no problem, so I can make it to Hulberry to take on the second gym. At the second gym, we find Nessa and her water Pokemon. With an Ivysaur holding a Miracle Seed, this gym shouldn't be too hard for me. Implant takes out Goldeen with a single Razor Leaf, and then takes out Arrokuda the same way. After Nessa Dynamaxes her Dreadnought, and I Dynamax Implant, I take one Max Strike completely safely, and retaliate with a Max Overgrowth that one-hit KOs Dreadnought. That's a super easy second badge. I meet Chairman Rose at this fancy seafood restaurant where, of course, he is kicked out for not following the dress code. You gotta wear a blazer, man. I told you that. After beating Bede in Galar Mine number 2, that's right, Galar Mine number 2, sick name guys. We meet the next gym leader and then loop back around to Motostoke. Marnie is a bit tricky, but we get past her and can finally take on the third gym. Kabu starts with Ninetales, and I send out Irrigate. Water Pulse will be a 2-hit KO here, and Will-O-Wisp is fine since I'm a special attacker. A second Water Pulse knocks out Ninetales. Next is Arcanine, whose Intimidate doesn't really affect me, and I use the turn to Dynamax and knock it out with one Max Geyser. Finally, Kabu sends out Dynamax Centiskorch, but even with Rain and Mystic Water, Irrigate can't quite knock it out. However, a Max Flutterby doesn't do enough damage, and I win the fight on the next turn. The first 3 gym leaders in this game are pretty easy, and I'm happy to report that I do understand type advantages now. This is the point in the game where things get much, much trickier. To help me though, I now have access to the northern parts of the wild area, and can catch my 4th encounter, the Dark Fairy Impidimp. Unfortunately, this one has Frisk instead of Prankster, but I catch him and name him Impasta. I make it to Hammerlock, and Sonia shows me all these old paintings. Thanks, but I'm trying to play video games here, not go to a museum. After these grunts yell at me for being too loud, I take them out. Irrigate evolves into his final form, Inteleon. Ivysaur can't evolve any further, and neither can Impidimp. In the next city, Stow-on-Side, I defeat Hop again, who really hasn't gotten any better. East of the city is the Glimwood Tangle, which is blocked off by Team Yell Grunts. However, you can still access the patches of grass, so before the next gym fight, I can find my last encounter, Indeedee. I catch him and name him Identity. This Indeedee has Inner Focus as its ability. I also chose to play in Pokemon Sword so I could get a male Indeedee. Only male Indeedees can learn the move Encore, a crucial move for a challenging playthrough like this. Another advantage in Pokemon Sword is that I get to take on a fighting gym here instead of a ghost gym. B starts with Hitmontop, and I send out my brand new team member, Identity. Identity outspeeds all of B's Pokemon, but Hitmontop knows Quick Attack. It doesn't use it though, so Identity can knock Hitmontop out with one Psychic. Next is Pangoro, who Identity can't normally one-hit KO, as its Dark type prevents it from being hit with Psychic moves. So with 3 Pokemon left, I Dynamax Identity, and knock out Pangoro with one Max Starfall. Next is Sirfetch'd, who Identity can one-hit KO, but I completely missed that Sirfetch'd knows Detect, so I have to spend my last Dynamax turn knocking out Sirfetch'd. Thankfully, even against a Dynamaxed Machamp, Psychic is still a good range to kill, but they call it a range because I'm arranging to get my Indeedee absolutely murdered. That's such a stupid thing to happen in this fight. Irrigate comes in to finish the fight, but without Indeedee, this run isn't possible. I decide to keep playing just to scout a bit more, and it's a good thing I did. Even with ignoring all optional fights between the 4th and 5th gyms, my team still overlevels. Great information to know for next time. On attempt 2, everything goes the same, except my Indeedee now has Synchronize as its ability. To preserve experience, I leave everyone but Identity in the box. This time, I gave Identity extra special attack EVs so it would always hit the range on Machamp. I knock out Hitmontop and Pangoro just like before, but this time B doesn't even use Detect on Sirfetch'd, so I can stay Dynamaxed and knock out Machamp. We're now halfway through the gym challenge. In Balanli, you can get a bunch of really critical items like the Choice Scarf, but probably the most helpful item for this challenge is the Eviolate. In a run where over half of my team isn't fully evolved, 50% increases to defense and special defense is insane. The gimmick in this gym is that if you answer questions correctly mid-battle, your stats will be boosted. It seems crazy to do something like this so late in the game, but I can use this to my advantage. Opal starts by sending out Galarian Weezing. and I send out Implant. I can start a setup with Growth here, because all Weezing wants to do is use Sludge. Implant has the Eviolite, so Sludge doesn't do a lot of damage. I'm also getting stat boosts from Opal's questions. By keeping myself healthy with Synthesis, I can get up to +5 special attack. Opal's final question gets me to +6, and now I can start my sweep. Taking out Weezing with a Venoshock, Togekiss with a Venoshock, Mawile with a Grass Pledge, and Alcremie with a Max Ooze. Eviolite, more like Eviolite of my life. I'm on my way back to Hammerlock now, and I actually had some trouble with Hop. I know, I'm embarrassed about it too. Because of some bad crit and paralysis luck, Implant actually ended up dying to Hop's Snorlax. I have to continue on to Sirchester though, where I find my favorite cutscene that I've probably ever seen in a Pokemon game. This whole scene is just really funny. In Sword, the 6th gym leader is Gordy and his rock Pokemon. Definitely a much better matchup for this team than Ice would be. Gordy starts with Barbaracle, and I send out Irigate. Barbaracle is the only Pokemon Irigate can't one-hit KO. So I Dynamax him immediately, and take out Barbaracle with a neutral effectiveness Max Geyser. I'm still Dynamaxed, so I obliterate Shuckle and Stonejourner, and undynamax when Gordy Dynamaxes his Colossal. Water is ×4 effective against Colossal though, so Irigate can still take out the Dynamaxed Pokemon. Because Irigate got a lot of experience from that battle, I had to box him for the following routes. This put me in a really tough position against Marnie, who actually took out all of my Pokemon. One thing I've noticed about this game is that the quote-unquote rival fights are usually more difficult than the gym fights. I'm sure this is because of Dynamaxing, but it's not really something I'm used to. Attempt 3 went the same, except my Indeedee has Inner Focus again, and this time my Inkay has the contrary ability. Still no Prankster on Impidimp though, which is a shame because without priority moves, this tiny moron is pretty useless. This time I beat Gordy the exact same way, but came in a bit underleveled, so I could bring Irigate to the Marnie fight. At this point, Marnie's Liepard's only attacking move is Sucker Punch, so I stall it out of PP using Workup, and when it's finally out, I can sweep her entire team with Irigate. Because of Inverse's contrary ability, Superpower actually boosts attack and defense. It basically makes it a super beefed up power-up punch. The gym fight against Piers is a street battle with no Dynamaxing. Piers sends out Scrafty, and I send out Irigate, but he's only a decoy. I immediately switch into Identity in order to bait a Fake Out from Scrafty. Since I'm faster, I can Encore Scrafty into using Fake Out, which will fail since it's not the first turn it's out. Now I can switch back to Irigate and use a Workup before Scrafty's Encore runs out. I'm still safe to all of Scrafty's attacks, so I use Workup for one more turn, as Scrafty hits me with a Brick Break. At +2 special attack, I can knock out Piers' Scrafty, Malamar, Obstagoon, and Skuntank using Snipe Shot. Encore strats worked perfectly here. I trek back to Hammerlock, where Leon tells me to ignore that the world is crumbling around me and to focus on what really matters, sports. The 8th gym fight against Raihan is a double battle, which is definitely not a format I'm used to. Raihan sends out Gigalith and Flygon, and I send out Irigate and Impasta. Gigalith's ability puts up a Sandstorm, and I start with a Fake Out on Flygon. I always forget that Sandstorm boosts the special defense of rock Pokemon, so Snipe Shot doesn't kill here. Luckily, Impasta doesn't get crit by the Body Press. It ends up working out okay though, because Icy Wind can knock out both Flygon and Gigalith, and I can spend Impasta's turn raising its special attack. Finally, Raihan sends out Duraludon and Sandaconda. I Dynamax Irigate, as Raihan Dynamaxes his Duraludon. Max Hailstorm will be a 2-hit KO with hail damage, but at +2, Impasta should actually be able to knock out Duraludon with a Dark Pulse. Unfortunately, Duraludon outspeeds, and honestly, I think this was a speed tie. Thanks for the Fake Out, little dude. Then Sandaconda paralyzes Irigate, and I send out Identity. Since I'm paralyzed, Duraludon outspeeds, and with Max Rockfall, gets the weather back to Sandstorm. Identity does decent damage with Psychic, and Sandaconda retaliates with an Earth Power against Irigate. Because of the special defense boost from Sandstorm, Max Hailstorm doesn't kill, but because it sets up hail damage knocks out Duraludon. Identity knocks out Sandaconda, and we have completed the gym challenge. Thank you all my new fans. I'm glad you liked it, and thank you for the positive comments. Make sure to subscribe to my, whatever. I head up to Winden to start the Champion Tournament. With only 4 Pokemon, this might prove to be a challenge. but let's see if it's possible. The first fight is against Marnie, who's definitely given me some trouble previously. She sends out her sucker-punching Liepard, and I start with Identity. I'm expecting Liepard to go for Fake Out, but it actually uses Nasty Plot. Because of Identity's inner focus ability, I was planning to encore it into using Fake Out, but encoring Nasty Plot works just as well. I spend the first 2 encore turns using Calm Mind, and on the third, I knock out Liepard with Disarming Voice. At +2 special attack, I can knock out Scrafty with a Disarming Voice, Toxicroak with a Psychic, Morpeko with a Max Starfall, and Dynamax Grimmsnarl with a Max Starfall. Next is Hop, who, embarrassingly, has also given me trouble in the past. He starts with Dubwool, and I send out Irrigate. I start with a workup, as Hop goes for a Body Slam. I need to avoid a crit, and more importantly, a paralysis, and luckily I do. I have to work up again and avoid the exact same things, but Hop goes for a Cotton Guard, which is perfect since I'll be using special attacks. At +2 special attack, I don't need to risk it again, so I take out Dubwool with a Snipe Shot and Pincurchin with a Snipe Shot. I can't one-hit KO Snorlax as is though, so I Dynamax here and take it out with 1 Max Geyser. Then I take out Corviknight and Dynamax Cinderace with Max Geyser. Yes, Hop, you truly did teach me the power of type advantages. Oleana seems like she's in a good place mentally when we take her on, dealing with her Frostlass by sending out Identity. I use Calm Mind to get myself to +3 special attack and special defense, as Frostlass makes me slower with an Icy Wind, and then uses Double Team a few times. Then it burns me, which is okay because I'm a special attacker, and I hit my first Psychic to knock it out. I'm slower but safe to Melodic, who just goes for an Aqua Ring before I knock it out with a Psychic. Same thing with Salazzle, who hits me with a weak Venoshock before I retaliate with the Psychic, and avoid a crit from Serena to knock it out with the Psychic. Since I'm slower than Garbodor, I switch to Irrigate, who takes a Max Quake like a champ. Because of the special defense increase, Max Geyser can't OHKO, but I'm safe to even a crit from Max Quake. Because of new factors like rain and an additional special defense increase, I don't know if Max Geyser will kill here. So to play it extra safe, I go for a Max Guard on Garbodor's final Dynamax turn. Since I switched in and Dynamaxed a turn later, I can stay Dynamaxed and safely knock it out with a Max Geyser. Oleana, you just need to look after yourself, girl. Now it's time to take on the gym leaders in the finals matches. First, we have new gym leader Bede, who keeps failing upwards. Here I use the same strategy that I usually use against him, Eviolite, Ivysaur. I set up growths to increase my special attack, take Iron Heads with no problem thanks to the Eviolite, and keep myself healthy using Synthesis. At +6 special attack, I knock out Mawile with a Grass Pledge, Gardevoir with a Venoshock, Galarian Rapidash with a Max Ooze, and Dynamax Hatterene with a Max Ooze. Next up is Nessa, and I'll be employing a similar strategy here. She sends out Golisopod, and I send out Eviolite Implant. I start setting up with Growth again, but Nessa does the same by going for Swords Dance. I'm still safe, so I do it again, but so does Nessa, and now Golisopod can absolutely kill me. I need to attack now though, because even though I don't OHKO, the damage is enough to trigger Golisopod's emergency exit, so his huge attack stat is no longer a factor. At +2, I can still knock out Pelipper with a Grass Pledge, but for Barraskewda, I need to Dynamax to take its ice moves and knock it out with Max Overgrowth. Then I can knock out Seaking with a Max Overgrowth, and even though Nessa heals her Golisopod, my Dynamax moves are now strong enough to take it out in one hit. This does leave me undynamaxed for Nessa's Gigantamax Pokemon, but thankfully, it's Dreadnought, who's 4 times weak to grass moves, so one Grass Pledge ends the fight. Next is B, and I can use Irrigate for this fight. I start with one workup, which is possible since Irrigate will only die to a high roll, high jump kick crit, which doesn't happen. At +1, Irrigate can one-hit KO the Hawlucha, the Sirfetch'd, and the Phalanx, and after Dynamaxing can take out the Grapploct and the Machamp. Beautifully done. Finally, we're up against Raihan, and I have a new strategy to employ here, and that would be Weather Control. Between fights, I taught Irrigate Rain Dance. So when Torkoal's ability puts up Sun, I can outspeed and change the weather back to rain. Now Solar Beam is a 2-turn move, so Torkoal can't hit me before I knock it out with a rain-boosted Snipe Shot. Next out is Goodra, and even though Irrigate knows an ice move, It's not enough to kill Gudra before it kills me with Thunder. So I switch into Implant, who can take a Thunder with no problem. I start setting up growths, and the most damage that Gudra can do is using Surf, and it's still not that much damage. So keeping myself healthy with Synthesis, I get up to +4 special attack. That's enough to 2-hit KO Gudra with Venoshock. Next is Turtonator, so I switch back to Irrigate, as Raihan changes the weather back to sun. Turtonator sets up a completely useless Shell Trap, and I change the weather back to rain. Now I can knock it out with a single snipe shot. I also knock out Flygon with an Icy Wind. Finally, we both Dynamax our Pokemon, but Max Geyser can't quite kill. I'm completely safe to a Max Knuckle though, so a second Max Geyser knocks out Duraludon, and we've made it through the championship finals. Hop and I decide to get married before the final battle, and in retrospect, our best man and maid of honor selections may have been a bit desperate. Here to object to this holy union is Chairman Rose, who has a huge weakness to fire-type moves. I clearly don't have any fire Pokemon though, but I do have one Pokemon that can learn one fire move. That Pokemon would be Inverse, and that move is Flamethrower, which is 4 times effective against both Escavalier and Ferrothorn. Against Klinklang, I Dynamax, and use Max Flare to knock it out, as well as Berserker. Against Gigantamax Copperjaw, Max Flare can't quite kill, but Inverse hangs on from a Max Quake, and even without Dynamax, Inverse can finish the job with one more Flamethrower. Rose just got swept by an Inkay. How utterly embarrassing for him. Next, Hop and I have to take out Dragon Blight Ganon, and the game forces me to catch it. Now I can achieve my final goal, defeating Leon and becoming champion of Galar. Let's see if I can do it using only I Pokemon. Leon starts with Aegislash, and I send out Irrigate. My plan is to use Work Up until Aegislash switches stances. The first turn, he uses King's Shield, so I get a free Work Up. On the second turn, I use Work Up, and Aegislash changes stances and launches a Shadow Ball at me. With him in his Blade form, I can knock him out with a +2 Snipe Shot. Next is Dragapult, who will outspeed and kill me. So I have to Dynamax in order to survive its Shadow Ball, and thankfully it does not crit. Now I can retaliate with a Max Hailstorm, which KOs Dragapult. Hail comes close to knocking me out, but luckily against Rillaboom, I'm strong enough to kill with a not very effective Max Geyser, which changes the weather to rain and prevents me dying from hail damage. I can also knock out Leon's Haxorus with Max Geyser. I'm out of Dynamax turns, but I can still take out Leon's Rhyperior with Snipe Shot. And now it's the last Pokemon of the run, Charizard. But I can outspeed and still knock out Charizard with a single Snipe Shot, without even needing the critical hit that I got. We are the new champion of Galar, and we did it while only using Pokemon that begin with the letter I. I did it, and the best part is I did it all for my dojo. Oh fuck, gotta find those max mushrooms, oh god. I'm sorry, sensei. Well, I hope you enjoyed the run. If you did, well, you know the drill. This has been a quick Nuzlocke of Pokemon Sword using only I Pokemon. Thank you so much for watching.